I'm Coach Hall, and welcome to the webinar. In a few moments, we're going to discover the secret that you should have learned when you went to middle school, high school, maybe even elementary. They should have taught you this. At elementary school, this would have been incredible. The information that you're going to get, this is something we should all have, yet we don't get it. Now, we're not going to go into why we don't get this information. That would be a whole new topic and probably something that would require a series of films to discuss. But what we will do is actually just tell you what it is that you should know, you should have learned when you were a child, and what you should have learned as you started to mature, go through puberty, and be as a teenager, and in your early adulthood, and for the rest of your life. And most of us will go to our graves without knowing this information, and because of the lack of knowing this, we will not have the type of life that we potentially should have had, and we could have had. And that was at our disposal. But that's not going to happen for you guys, because you're about to get this secret, if you will. All right, so before we get into that, I just want to give you a little bit about what we're doing here. I'm going to give you a breakdown on what this webinar is all about and tell you a little bit about me and my mission and what I really want to do for each and every one of you, which is help you find your inner star. You see, we're all made of stardust. We're all part of this great big galaxy, universe, multiverse, whatever we want to call it. And we're all related because of the fact that we are of the same materials. From at some point, we know that there was a big bang. So we were all just one little something. And then boom, it exploded. And then we became these stars and comets and all this kind of stuff. And some of us settled in as human beings. And so each and every one of us, you guys included, we're related. You and I are distant cousins. And interesting enough, there are other things that we're related to as well. Like the clothing that I'm wearing right now is actually made of some kind of stardust material that was connected together at that singular point at the beginning of the universe. Boom, and then we all got separated. So we're all from the same source. So we're all related. And I want to help you find that shining star within you so you could be the best version of yourself possible. Okay? But let's begin by just laying it out on the table. Let's be honest. Everybody has something that needs some level of improvement. Okay. All right. So one of you guys out there, you're saying, nah, I'm perfect. I'm absolutely perfect. Okay. Well, maybe that is the case. Maybe you are perfect. And if that's the case, just shut off the video. You don't need to converse with me. But I tell you what I will do is, if you will become an angel and share this wisdom with other people, all right, I'll be the first one to sign up for your course. I'll read your books. You know, I want to follow in your footsteps, but not really. Because the truth is, I don't care who you are. You're not perfect. Now, if you believe you're perfect, again, I welcome you to just discontinue, just go on about your way and have a great and wonderful life. I truly mean that. But for the rest of us, stay tuned, because I'm going to talk to you about being honest. None of us are perfect. And there's a good chance that some of you out there are unhappy. You're unfulfilled. You're uninspired. You're uncertain. You're underperforming. Perhaps you're emotionally drained. You're easy to anger. You're eating too much. You're overspending. You're feeling stupid or incompetent. You're feeling out of control, out of your mind, out of time, out of money, out of love. What I mean by that is maybe you just don't feel like you've got any more to give because you don't feel like you're getting anything back. Right? Nobody cares about you. How many people out there feel like that? Nobody really cares about you. Well, the truth is, we feel some of this some of the time, and some of us will feel like much of this all the time. And I mention this because this is exactly how I felt for a long stretch of my life. Beginning in 1996, I started feeling unhappy, unfulfilled, uninspired. And it all came to me in a real quick instant. I hung up the phone after receiving some really incredible information that I just couldn't wrap my head around, put the phone down, and began to laugh. I was just laughing. And suddenly I realized that there were people around me asking me to control myself, because apparently I've been laughing for quite a while. I couldn't stop laughing. And I was making people around me frightened like, this guy can't stop laughing. And they had asked me repeatedly to stop laughing, and I couldn't hear them. And then finally it kind of registered to me that, hey, folks are asking me to stop laughing. But at that point in time, I didn't even feel like I was attached to my body. I felt like I had fallen inside of my body, and I was looking through some kind of telescope or something out through my eyeballs. And with the inability to actually have control over what it was I was doing. I could not control my laughter. And it was a painful kind of laughter. You know, one of those kind of, you know, obviously I was scaring the heck out of people because I was gesturing in an uncomfortable but kind of laughter type of way. At some point, something snapped in me and I just began to cry. And I could not stop crying. And people, at that point, I felt like I was a little better connected to myself. And I could hear people say, stop crying, control yourself, stop crying. And I still could not stop it. This went on for, I don't even know how long, but it was certainly at least a couple hours because my parents showed up one at a time. And one of them lived at least 45 minutes away and another one lived over an hour away. So for them to finally arrive, and I remember them there trying to console me and trying to get me to get control of myself. And I just didn't have it. I was just kind of out of contacts with myself. I didn't have the puppet strings anymore, so to speak. And I was out of control. And at some point, I kind of realized it, and I felt like I was out of my mind. And, you know, part of the reason is because that phone call I was talking about, you know, I discovered I was out of money. And really, I had given everything that I could give at that point. I had put in 20-hour days and saved and saved and saved, and I had what I thought was a wonderful, wonderful life. I was moving up in my career, was making more money every year than the previous year. I had 2 young children. I basically, there wasn't anything that I didn't really want that I couldn't get my hands on and have. You know, I had big screen TV. If I wanted that, I'd get it. Keyboards, I bought keyboards for myself. I had it. Trips, we want to go on vacation on a cruise. We did it. But I was overspending. And ultimately, I was also overeating. I went inside of a 6-year period. I went from a size 30 waist to a size 36 waist. I was literally swelling up, becoming a bigger version. I was finding that I was just emotionally drained to the point where I just didn't have emotions. I just became kind of a robot. And all of this time I was being successful. And it wasn't not until that phone call that everything sort of came together and I realized, man, I'm a mess. And that realization sent me spiraling down into a state of depression that took me literally years to get out of, years to get over. And I went the pharmaceutical route, and then doctors told me to do this, you need to see that psychiatrist, you need to do this, A, B, C, D. I'm doing everything the doctor's telling me to do because I really believe that the doctors could fix my head. And it took me a number of years of being basically a guinea pig of try this drug and then this depressant, that antidepressant, this, that, and the other thing. And I was emotionally drained from this whole experience. I certainly didn't have any certainty about my future. I didn't know what was happening to me. I didn't know if I was going to be alive in a year. I didn't know if I was going to ever be able to recover. I didn't know what kind of father I was going to be. I had a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. I didn't see myself as being a dad anymore. I wasn't a husband anymore. I couldn't perform in any sort of fashion. Not in the bedroom, not in the boardroom, not in anybody's room, not even in the room in my head. I was uninspired, completely unfulfilled, and absolutely miserable. I was not happy at all. And every day was more of the same thing until I discovered my mind and started receiving some therapies that had me focusing on my mind and learning that all of this stuff that I was creating, this depression that I had created, was actually my creation. I made it. I made everything that was happening in the positive before happen, and I also made everything that was negatively happening to me, I made that as well. So we're going to talk about what we're going to help you with in terms of a realization, a big epiphany kind of moment. And hopefully you don't have to go through what I went through in 1996. And by the way, it took me to 2004 to finally climb out of that hole. And from that period forward, I've spent the rest of my life understanding this and helping other people so they don't have to experience what I experienced. And if they do, they can get out of it sooner rather than later. Because sometimes the best way to learn things is just to you got to go through an experience. And sometimes you try to protect somebody like you do with your children, and you say, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, because you're trying to protect them. But really the only way they get the lesson is they have to actually go through it and get burned a few times. The difference is that with this information, you can help them get out of the hole quicker, and they can turn their lives around faster, and they can become the version of themselves that they want to be, and they can learn that lesson from that experience much quicker. And so that's what we're going to talk to you about here in this webinar, and that's what we talk about in everything that we do at Star Family Coaching. If you're interested in any of this stuff, just scroll down to the bottom of this page or send me an email and say, hey man, I want to know more. I'm going to give you access to some courses at the bottom, and if you reach out to me, I'll give you the best discounts available so you can get this stuff, for basically pennies on a dollar. What we're talking about here is learning about your mind. I want to welcome all of you out there, at least 99% of you. Okay, that 1% that's perfect, you guys are going to tune out now. But the 99% of you, the truth is that even the most together person, okay, even that person is checked out now, the guy tuned out because he's perfect, even the most together person is going to feel negative from time to time. We will do things that don't represent our best. That's what we do. The best humans make mistakes often many times over before they finally get it right. We go through, we do what we do. Even the best of us out there, we will make lots of mistakes before we get it right. Thomas Edison experimented with the light bulb 1,000 times trying to get it right until that 1,001th time that he actually made it happen. Now some say it was 10,000. I don't know what it is. I don't know if 1,000 is an accurate number, but the point is that he did not give up. He kept making mistakes. He kept making mistakes. He made a lot of mistakes. But eventually, it wasn't a mistake. The bulb went off. It was light. He made light. He created light. And so what we're saying here is that even the best of us, the best of us, are going to make mistakes. And even once we get it right, keeping it right, that's a whole nother level. I mean, that can be a challenge. We can get it right and go, oh, and then it got away from us, and we're like, oh, how do we get it back? How do we get it back to being right again? Because time and change will have its impact on everything that we do, okay? Today I want to share a secret that most people subconsciously know, but have allowed to fall asleep over time. And once we awakened, completely changes your life for the better forever. Okay, for the remainder of the webinar, I just want to point out right now what it is that we're going to cover so you guys have some kind of idea what's happening. We're going to talk about stars. We're going to talk about the human race. And we're going to talk about getting from point A to point B. We talked about some of us being unhappy and unfulfilled and uncertain and all that whole list of things that we talked about just a couple moments ago. That's point A. That's kind of where you're at right now, but that's not where you want to be. You want to be someplace else. You want to be on the other side, right? You want to be happy. You want to be fulfilled. You want to feel certain about things. You want these things, which is not where you're at, but it's over here, and we're going to get over there, and we're going to show you how to get over there, okay? But in order to get over there, you need to figure out where you are in life right now. And we have to be honest about that. And what we're going to do is, help you get the questions that you need to be asking. Okay, it's time to wake up, folks, because we're going to show you how you can go about getting the answers, because that's more important than just the questions. The questions are fine. That's kind of getting us to the place. But what we're there for, it's like going fishing, right? We bring our fishing pole. I hope we catch some fish today. We throw the line in with the bait. We catch something. That's what we want. We want the fish, right? We're not going there just to fish to waste some time. We want to get the fish in our hands, and that's what we're talking about here. We're going to give you the answers, or show you how you can go about finding the answers, which is even better, because that's what Star Family Coaching is all about. It's not about me giving you advice. It's not about me solving all your problems. It's about me showing you how you can figure that stuff out for yourself. Because I'm not going to be around forever. I live by the time and change principle, and I know that there's a beginning and an end to everything, including my life. And if I just give you advice and drop dead tomorrow, guess what? You've got no source to help you out anymore. So I'd rather just hand you over, the source for yourself, right? The source is right up here in your head, not in my head. It's in your head. The only thing it's missing is a little bit of information so you can figure out how to make your mind work best for you. All right, a little bit about me, because some of you may be curious, and if you're not, you should be curious. Who's this joker up there talking to you about the mind? Okay, well, my name's Donnie Hall. I'm Coach Hall by most people. I'm the founder of the Star Family Coaching Method. I'm also an international instructor. I've got about 5,600 students to date. And we're filming in May of 2019. There'll be some updates later on this, and I'll do another webinar in the future to keep this more accurate. What's the word? Relevant. That's what we're looking for. Relevant. All right. So I'm an international instructor with students in about 130 different countries around the world. I'm a member of the Priority Academy. I'm also a member of the Academy for Advanced Self-Care Skills. Discover your path, you, nourish, and ecology. I am the creator of the STAR Developmental System, which is a sports system that basically attaches itself to the long-term athlete development system, LTAD, which is a sports program, or a model that most programs should be operating by, but most do not. I'm also the creator of the Cognition Tower and the Me Elevator, which is something we're going to touch on a little bit in this webinar. I'm also certified as an NLP Master Practitioner, CBT Master Practitioner, life coaching certifications with SMART and with T-Grow and a couple other systems. And one that I created myself. I'm also certified with mindfulness and as a youth sports coach. I have a unique life coaching method that basically merges all these things that I mentioned to you into a way of looking at sports and looking at how sports managers and coaches get their players motivated and get them up to to perform at their optimum level, what it is that they're doing, and you apply that with all these other disciplines, NLP, CBT, life coaching, mindfulness, etc. And you can use those two worlds together and really deal with the world of life. All right, up on your screen here, you'll see one of my favorite people in the universe, Neil deGrasse Tyson. This guy is like, he's Mr. Star Trek to me. Like, he knows a lot of stuff about physics and astrophysics and all this stuff about planets and the universe, and just very knowledgeable guy. I got to listen to his documentary when my wife and I went up to New York City one year. We go every now and then because she went to school there. She went to NYU, and she fell in love with the city, and it's just a fabulous town. And one of our trips up there, we were hitting one of the museums, and we're sitting in this great big, globe-looking museum thing, and we're looking up, and there's the stars, right? There's stars everywhere. It's a map of the universe. And Neil deGrasse Tyson's voice comes in, and he starts telling us that we are all made up of stardust, right? And you see all these images. I mean, it was really cool to see all these images in front of us, along with his voice and this incredible, powerful information that he was sharing with us. He was basically saying that the sun is like this giant furnace that's creating all the elements, the atoms, the minerals, and everything that makes up life and makes up everything that we see, all the matter in the universe. is basically being created by these stars, and it's just kind of spitting it out to, and some of it forms into mountains, or, well, bigger than mountains, forms into planets, and then, they get stuck into the gravitational fields of these bigger objects. And it was just a fascinating discovery. But it made me think about the fact that, if that's true, then we are all related to each other. I mean, literally related to each other. We're all, the sun is kind of like our daddy, creating all that stuff, right? And we're, kind of going around daddy, if you want to call him that. And we're trying to, make sense of who we are as individuals. And I think sometimes we forget that we are related to each other. We forget that we're related to the planet. We forget that we're related to each other, that women and men are basically, we're the same. We've got a couple little minor differences in terms of body parts and stuff, but we're all kind of the same. Certainly we're the same regardless of our skin color, what religious we believe, how tall we are. None of that stuff really matters because we're all of the same family. We're all part of the star family. And so there is a little bit of insight about why it is my organization is called Star Family Coaching, because we all are related to each other. And as soon as we start to wrap our head around that and appreciate the world and ourselves and our relationships better, and we start treating each other as if it really matters to us, because it should matter to us, because we all are related, and we're dealing with our family when we're dealing with the planet, and we're dealing with all the human beings on that planet and every other living creature, that this is something that we ought to be not only just practicing and loving, but teaching to the next generation. And we need to do so in a coaching kind of way, in a very, sports John Wooden style, let's go guys, here are some very important lessons in life, and you can plug them into any sort of situation in life. And it's not about winning, it's about succeeding. And succeeding is a completely different animal from winning, and we can talk about more of that later. All right, so we talked about stars, and I want to talk about the human race. Okay, so the stars end up making up these little different divisions of the universe, and one of those divisions is called the human race. All right, and as you see up on the screen, that includes everybody across the board. Okay, men, women, children of all shapes, sizes, and colors. We are all of the human race. Now we look at the word human race and we go, a race? What does that mean? I thought a race is a contest of time or distance. Right? Well, that's true. A race is typically, the way we think of it, it's a contest between, with time. We're trying to get a better time than whatever time was measured before, or we're going on a distance and we're trying to get to a distance before somebody else. Right? So those are the two kinds of races. But if you think about it, the human race is on a race, and I'll talk about that in a second. But before we get to that, to begin life's race, we all need a place to start. And we talked about the mind, and that's what we're going to focus on in this webinar, and pretty much everything that I do as a life coach. One of the famous people that help folks understand their mind is a guy by the name of Tony Robbins. And here's one of his quotes. He says, setting goals is the first step in turning the invisible into the visible. How cool is that, right? You need to be able to have a goal in order to create the outcome that you desire. If you don't have a goal in your head, you're not going to create whatever that outcome might be. So Tony Robbins is saying, this is what we want to do, right? We got to get to this goal, and the only way we can get there is actually by having one. So we can turn what's not seen and what we don't have yet into something that can be seen and can be had, right? Another gentleman, very popular, a generation before, by the name of Earl Nightingale, he has a famous quote, and it says, your problem is to bridge the gap which exists between where you are now and the goal you intend to reach. Okay? So we're talking about the A to B point bridge. Okay? This is where we're at, and the goal that's invisible unless we set it. Like Tony Robbins said, we want to turn that goal on so we can see it, so it becomes like a beacon that we want to, direct ourselves towards. We need to figure out, okay, how to resolve this problem of getting from where we're at to where we want to go. That becomes this life bridge that we need to figure out how to cross. Okay, that's getting from point A to point B. Now, something I say quite often is you need to know where you are in order to get to where you wish to go. Right? If you don't know where you're at, you can't get to where you want to go. Now, I challenge you. You might have one of these mobile phone devices like most of us do, and on there's an app like Waze is a program that I use a lot. You can do Google Maps and several other applications that are available. But you can plug in the coordinates that you want to go to, and it'll map it out and tell you how to get there, but you got to plug in where you're at. Without that, program doesn't work. It just won't get anything. You leave it blank, and I'm telling you, it won't give you directions unless it's automatically set to figure out where you're at, but that's kind of cheating. But if you didn't have that feature where it could figure out where you're at based on your GPS signals, if you had to actually manually put it in, and you didn't put it in, you'd get no response. You would get no direction. You would have nowhere to go because it couldn't tell you how to get there, because it couldn't tell you where you're at. And because you can't tell the machine where you're at, it can't tell you how to get there. You see the problem that's being created here? A lot of us do this in life. We will set our goals, and we will try to actually, I need to do this and I need to do that. And one of the methods that we even teach here at Star Family Coaches for people who can't figure out how to get to their goal, we tell them, well, reverse engineer it. What do you do the step before that? What happens just before you obtain your goal? Oh, okay. And you keep working it back, and that's supposed to lead you to the first step. Now, that'll get you in the right direction, but if you still don't know where you're at, man, that thing can start to really look more like a spider web than an actual point of direction. So you need to know where you're at in order to get where it is that you wish to go. So the question becomes, where are you, right? Where are you right now? But I want you to think about it more from than just a location standpoint. Okay, I know where I'm at. I'm standing on the second floor of my apartment building in a condominium in Key Biscayne, Florida. That's where I'm physically located as I film this, right? In fact, I'm getting ready to pack up and move to Orlando. And this is the last film shoot in this current studio, so it's kind of exciting today. But that's not what I'm asking you. I don't really care where you're physically located, okay? I don't mean to sound like I don't care, but I really don't care, because it's not where you're physically at. It's more about where you are up here. Where are your thoughts? I'm more concerned about that. You should be as well. Where are you physically, mentally, and emotionally? Okay? Physically, I mean, of course, location does matter to a certain extent. If you're out in the middle of deserted island somewhere and you got no access to anything except for a cable line that you're getting this feed on, oh boy, you better get to some food pretty quick, buddy, because you're going to be out of luck pretty soon. So we want to get you, your health up to where it needs to be. The point is that physically is more than just location. We're talking about, do you have any aches and pains, and how are you physically feeling? This is what we're really referring to. Mentally, how sharp are you? Now, how's your thinking? Are you forgetful? Are you having trouble solving problems? What's going on with mentally speaking? And then emotionally, are your emotions like really sabotaging everything that you do, or preventing you from doing other things because you're too busy being emotional, right? You're just being angry all the time, or you're being frustrated, and your behavior demonstrates that you're full of rage, or you're just completely, non-caring. I don't care. And so you just turn into this I don't care robot. I mean, that's emotional driven action right there. So we want to know where you are, right? So we want to know where your thoughts are. We also want to know where you are physically, mentally, and emotionally. And we want to know where you are operationally, okay? Process-wise with your life. What are you doing on a kind of daily basis, right? What's going on? What's your daily routines like? When you have a problem, what are you doing about it? What kind of system do you use to solve your problems? Where are you in that regard? Are you even thinking about any of this stuff? Do you care about any of this stuff? So you need to know where you are on all of these things. So in other words, we're asking another question. What? What is your mindset? What are your ideas? What is your vision? What is your physical, mental, and emotional state? And what are your problem-solving mechanisms? Okay, we're looking at where in a different way now, a different perspective of asking the same kinds of questions for the same types of topics. Talking about thoughts, that's happening up here, right? How you feel physically, mentally, and emotionally, believe it or not, that's also all happening up here, okay? And what mechanisms are you using to solve problems? Where do you solve your problems? Yeah, that's right, up here. Up here it's all happening. Now these questions really lead us to another question. How? How do you come up with ideas to solve issues? How do you find the right answers for resolution? How are you using resources and thinking process to serve you best? Now we could bring this back and tie in those other questions as well. How do you find the right answers based on your physical, mental, and emotional state? How do you do that, right? How do you come up with ideas based upon the way your thinking is right now, how your thoughts are to help you solve issues, right? And of course, the final question is, how are you using your thinking processes and whatever sources you have available to you? Are you using them so they serve you best? So we looked at what, where, how, and now I'm going to ask, why are these questions important? And how about any other questions? Are there other questions that we need to consider? Yeah, there's a lot of questions, and we're just touching on a few of them, but one of them is, why do you have thoughts? Right? That's probably one of these questions you may have asked yourself. You're probably going, oh, why do I think? What is that all about? What's this thinking business that I do? What's that little voice that's in my head that's telling me I'm not good enough or I shouldn't do that? You know, is there really a little devil on one side, an angel on the other side? Because it seems like there's something like that going on up there. So why do you have thoughts? Why is it so hard to find purpose? Right? Because that's the big question. We all asked that. A few years ago to see in a big arena, not personally, not individually, one-on-one. I wish this was the case. But I went to see the Dalai Lama. And he had a wonderful speech and just highly inspirational. I felt really good. I was in a Zen mode. And, you know, the microphone gets passed around and people are asking questions. And, of course, probably this question gets asked to him more than any other question. And somebody said, "Dear Dalai Lama, what's the meaning of life?" And he had the perfect response. It was perfectly timed. It was almost as if this was on a sitcom, show, and just the right amount of pause, and we're all kind of sitting on the edges of our chairs waiting for the answer, and he says, "I do not know." I was like, yes, perfect answer. This guy looks so distraught. It's like he's walking off, handing the microphone off to the next person. He's like, that's not what he wanted to hear. Okay, the real question behind all that is, what is your purpose? Why are you here? What's the point of this whole experience that we call life? And for us, some of us, it's extraordinarily hard to figure that out. We get, doing this for a while, whatever that is, right? We're doing the mommy thing or the daddy thing, or maybe we're doing the career thing, or maybe we're doing the solo thing, but we still haven't found why it is that we're doing this thing, okay? And why is it so hard to figure that out? Why do we behave, act, and operate the way we do? Don't you ever get in, one of those self-reflective sort of days that you go, oh my God, why did I act like that? I was a real jerk. to that person. They didn't deserve that. Or maybe it's the other way around. I shouldn't have allowed myself to be treated this way. What is wrong with me? Right? Why did I just take it? Why did I zip my mouth? I should have spoke up. I had that chance and I didn't do it. Right? So the question is, why are we behaving the way we want to behave, but we don't behave the way we want to behave? Instead, we behave some other way. And what is this whole behavior thing anyways? So why do we behave and operate as we do? And of course, we are all subjected to time and change. Okay, these are two principles that we teach first and foremost at Star Family Coaching. Is that you and everybody else around us in this experience that we're having, we all are all governed by time and by change. And the sooner you get your head wrapped around that and embrace that idea, the better life's going to be. I know a lot of people that just fight with time all the time. They're always late. They're bitching about time all the time. It's completely, I don't have enough time. I never have enough time. It's just, get with it, buddy. Get with the program. Time. You got to get with the program. So they're fighting with time. My oldest son, for the longest time, just hated change. And I have to say that there's times in my life when I didn't like change either. I wasn't a big fan of change. I just wanted things to stay the same. I got to like a comfort zone in life, and I just like it the way it is. Don't change anything. Don't be changing, where we live, or don't change the menu, right? You got this favorite restaurant that you go to, and suddenly it's not there anymore. Like, what are you doing? Why did they shut it down? It was such good food. I don't like change, right? All of this stuff, time and change, has an impact on us. And ultimately, we end up running into this other question, which is, when are things going to happen? Or when is change going to occur? So let's focus this back onto up here, right? When will I change my thoughts? Okay, you're thinking, your thoughts have kind of a pattern going on, right? They're doing what they do. Okay, you've been thinking in patterns your whole life, whether you know it or not. We're creatures, we're habitual creatures. We do things pretty much the same all the time because it's comfortable. It's easy. It gives us a chance to not think so much, and to think on things that are important for us about changing the future the way that we'd like it to be designed. Except a lot of us don't even understand that either. When will I start looking for ways to be the best version of me? When's the last time you asked yourself that question? You ever look in the mirror and go, you know what? Am I being the best version of me? What's the best version of me look like? I want to be the best version of me. How many people have said that? Have you looked in the mirror and said, I want to be the worst version of me? Or, I just want to be kind of an average version of whatever the best version of me could be. I don't want to be the best me. I want to be kind of, somewhere between the worst version and the best version. I want to be kind of in the middle there. That's what I want to do. Now, if you think about that, just think about how profound that is. If you just look in the mirror one day and decide, I'm going to have this conversation with myself. And me, myself, and I, we're going to decide right now as a council whether we're going to do what we need to do to become the best version of ourselves. Are we going to continue doing what we're doing and just kind of be in the dark and we don't know what's happening? Or are we going to, aim for being the worst version of ourselves? Or we're going to shoot for something in the middle because, that's what we do. We settle for mediocrity. Well, when you got time and change and you're not really sure about if you get a second go round, if you believe in reincarnation, maybe that happens. I don't know. I haven't seen any real proof of that. But let's say, for example, that you take that card off the table and the only cards that you have to play is that you got one crack at this. That's it. One chance. How are you going to play your hand? You want to go out doing your best, or you want to go out being, doing shit half-ass? That's really point blank the question. Are you shooting to be your worst? I don't think anybody does that, okay? But are you really shooting to be your best? Are you putting your best effort forward every day? When are you going to start doing that? That is a major question. When will my life change for the better? Well, if you keep doing what you're doing and you don't, take any of the courses offered by Star Family Coaching or anybody else. You don't go see a Tony Robbins or read any Earl Nightingale books, or I don't know, there's a bunch of guys at Napoleon Hill, Zig Ziglar, a bunch of folks out there with a lot of good information. If you don't go about absorbing this information and not just collecting it, sticking it in your brain, go, oh, I read this great book and I can share some information with you. No, you actually take it and start applying it into your life so you can see the change occur. This is when the light bulb will go off and you can wake up and start to see things in a way that you've never seen it before. Okay? So we're going to ask a lot of questions. And what we're going to do for you in this webinar is provide you with one assessment, one life assessment. You've already got a bunch of questions here. This is already actually the first assessment. If you just plug in these questions we've already talked about. You need to rewind, that's fine. Go back and ask yourself all these questions. Why do you have thoughts? Why is it so hard to find purpose? Why do I behave and operate as I do? At least, if you don't have the answers, your brain is start thinking. You'll begin thinking, okay? And you're going to want to know the answers, because whenever our brain hears a question, it thirsts for the answer. All right, so why do you need to know these answers? Well, because the truth is, we're all on a human voyage. Okay, up on the screen you can see that stork drops off the baby. You start to develop, these different phases in your life, and at some point, you're on a cold metal slab with a tag on your toe describing who you are and how you died. Okay, this is what's going to happen on your human voyage. It's going to happen on everybody's human voyage, unless at some point in the singularity occurs that they talk about, and humans merge with robots, and suddenly we can live to be forever. But that hasn't happened yet, so until that happens, we will all be on this human voyage. Now, the human voyage is a product of time and change. I've already talked about it a little bit in this webinar, but I want you to really consider time. Okay, it's so important. We all live by time. Sun goes up, sun comes down. That measure between sun going up and going down, that's time. Okay, the measure between the sun going down and coming back up again, that's another time. That's nighttime, right? And the other one was daytime. Now, we do a whole cycle of that, and we call that a day. Okay, and we put that on the calendar. We go, oh, that's one day. We have another cycle that becomes day 2, forward, and suddenly we got a string of it. And now we're paying attention to how the moon goes around, and once it makes a full cycle, we go, hey, that's a whole cycle of the moon. Let's call that a month. And so now we have that measurement, and then suddenly, we get a little bit more sophisticated with our ability to measure where we are in relation to the universe. We notice, hey, we've made a full circle around the sun. That means we got to call that something. That's a year. Okay, so we have this time thing that we deal with, and socially speaking, it's something that's super important to us, right? We go to school based on time. We go to work based on time. We eat based on time. Everything seems to be based upon time. Now, another aspect to our existence and our life voyage is change. The seasons change, right? That the process of the sun going up and going down is a change. You can see, if you live in a nice area of the world, you can see 4 distinct seasonal changes. Fall, winter, spring, summer. The colors will be different. The trees, the foliage will be different. The bird migration will be different. The scene will be different. What is produced in terms of plants, and it's all different. And there's 4 distinct time frames that happen in 1 year. Okay? And this is something that when we understand it, which has happened in over civilization, a period of civilization, once they got a grip of that, they understood, oh, wait a minute, you know what? It's going to get real cold at some point, and we're going to not be able to have food, so we need to figure out a way to store food so we can get through the winter months. And so we had to solve that problem, right? And collectively, they came up with a concept called the granary, where they could build a storage facility and put food inside of it, and it would basically store it. They also use salt, right? They found that salt, and when you put it on meat, keeps the meat from rotting. So we started to figure out ways to deal with one of the change parts of the year that made it very difficult to survive. Okay, and now if you think about how your body itself changes and how your mind changes and the events that go through your life, the circumstances that you deal with, they change. Things are always changing. Now, we might not like it, but if we fight against it, it's going to be far more difficult than accepting it. And we need to accept the idea of time and change and how it impacts us on our human voyage. Now, if you're interested in any of this stuff, guys, and you want to unpack this even greater, please scroll down to the bottom of wherever it is that you see this and hit one of the links down there that will send you to a place or help you download a PDF. There'll be a way, it'll be explained to you down below on how you can go about gaining access to getting more and more of this information so you can become the best version of yourself, and you can find that star within and let it shine, and so you can see your future. That invisible goal becomes visible, the bridge becomes illuminated, and you will be able to actually take the steps and head in that right direction. Now, what I want to talk to you guys now is the fact that this human voyage, we all went on a very similar trip early on, okay? Maybe in different locations, and we've got different nature in that we have to deal with. We all have a nature card, and there's a nurture card, and then there's this mystery card that we're going to play the game of life with. So in the beginning, when we're babies, it's really a lot of nature at play, right? If you're, it's all about whether you've got the makeup to be able to survive. A lot of people have miscarriages. Sometimes the baby just doesn't make it. Okay, nature said no, and that became the fate of the child. And sometimes that nature has predispositions in its DNA that might say that this child is more inclined to develop a limp or develop some kind of disease, right? There's markers in the DNA that's going to determine that what color they are, what their eye color will be, what their hair color will be, if it's straight or if it's curly, or all these things. And a lot of that's provided to you by your biological parents. Okay? Now, we all have to deal with that. We get this deck of cards that, we didn't ask for it, right? Or at least we don't know. Maybe up in the heavens, if we believe in that say, man, this is what I want, and we get to pick it all out. That'd be cool, right? But then I'm wondering, if that's the case, why do people pick some of the things that they pick? Because I wouldn't want to have to go through what they go through, right? Anyhow, whatever your belief system, that's not the matter. The point is that we all start out as children, okay? And then we grow up and become an adult, right? And then it is the adult that ends up creating another child. And then that child becomes an adult. And then that's the cycle that occurs. Now, it's also the responsibility of the adult to teach the child, okay? And the adult's going to teach the child what to do, when to do it, how to do it, why to do it, where to do it, and guess what? We do it. All right, because if we don't do it, there's consequences, and usually they're not so good. So it's better to just follow and do as we're told, versus dealing with what's going to happen when we don't do what we're told. Right? Okay, so we grow up. At some point, I know what to do. I know what to do now. I know what to do. I'm a good old boy that turned into a robot. I know how to do it. I know where to do it. I know when to do it. I know why I have to do it. Right? And if you look upon the screen now, you can see some indications of what's going on behind each of these realities. All right? You know how to do it because we got some information. All right? We know where to do it because somebody's shown us some kind of map of where it is we got to do what we got to do. We know when to do it because we learned how to read a clock and tell time. And we know why we need to do it because it's all about the money. And there's a lot of other reasons we could say, oh, it's about laws and it's about this and that. And it's all about money. At the end of the day, it's all about money. Actually, why we do what we do is more complex. We behave based upon cognitive inputs, processes, and outputs. Beliefs, emotions, feelings, logic, and thoughts all are mixed together. Our choices, according to choice theory, is we do what we do based upon one of the following main drivers: survival, love, power, freedom, fun, and wisdom guided by values and goals. So I do as I'm told, I follow the rules, I help other people. I control my feelings because, that's what we're supposed to do. We're not allowed to be too emotional. And I should be happy because I'm doing what everybody tells me to do, right? But I'm not happy. How many of you feel like that? You're doing everything you're told. You're following all the rules. You're even helping people out, right? You're controlling your feelings. You're not allowing your feelings to get out of hand and mess with things. And you should be happy. And you're telling us, I should be happy. I got everything. I'm doing everything. But you're not happy. You don't trust people. You feel like a slave, right? You're doing everything for everybody else. And maybe you're working, have a career, but you know that the money that you're receiving isn't as much as you're really worth. You feel incompetent. I'm not good enough. I just, if I was good enough, I wouldn't be working for somebody else. Other people would be working for me. Nobody understands me. They really don't. Even my best friends don't really understand me. I feel overwhelmed. I'm really frustrated. And honestly, I feel kind of lost. This is what is happening in the adult teaches child arrangement here. This transmission to receiver process that's going on. The messages that are coming across. Yes, we'll end up doing as we're told. We'll know how to follow the rules. Yes, we'll help other people. And we will learn how to control our feelings. And we will smile as if we are happy. But because we don't know the secret, and because we don't understand this very well, and we don't know how to communicate to the level that we should be communicating, and several other things that are missing from really what is needed for us to be happy, to not feel like a slave, to really feel confident and feel like you are good enough and that people do understand you, and not to feel overwhelmed and not to feel frustrated and to feel like you are not lost at all. You know exactly where you are. That's what's missing. And we're going to help solve that for you right now. Okay, so one of the first things I do in the morning when I wake up is I practice a little meditation, and I think to myself about gratitude, and I think about forgiveness. Anything that is going on in my life, I try to look at in a positive manner. Try to have the first thing I want to think about in the morning is what I should be grateful for. And there's a billion things for me to think of. I could just be grateful that I woke up, because a lot of people die in their sleep. Now, that's not a bad way to go, and if I gotta go, which I will at some point, that might be the best way to go, okay? But today I woke up, and today I get to live another life, and today I get to be with my wife, and I get to be with my kids, and I get to be with friends, and I get to create, and I get to help people, and I get to just enjoy life. I'm grateful for that. And I make sure that I tell the universe that. I say it out loud, I say it in my mind. Thank you so much for another day, right? And then I look at the things that may be putting me in a negative mindset. And then I forgive myself for having those kind of thoughts. I forgive other people that I may be wanting to point the finger at and go, it's their fault for making me feel that way. And I forgive them. Okay, and I forgive the circumstance. I forgive my own ignorance. I forgive. And when I forgive, okay, so I'm grateful and I'm forgiving. And I want you to do that right now, because you're in this position that you're in. You're in the 99%. You're like everybody else. You're not happy all the time. You're unfulfilled. You're overwhelmed. You're underperforming. You're all those things we talked about, and several other things. If it's a negative thing, then you're part of the 99%, and it's not your fault. Okay. One of the principles I live by is that you got to take 100% responsibility. Well, on this one, we're going to get into the gray area. Okay, because the truth is that when we're born, we're helpless and we know nothing. We come in knowing nothing. You don't know what you don't know. It is the environment's responsibility to teach us what we need to do, to move forward. Okay, and our environment didn't teach us properly. It didn't. And we can point the finger of blame at the government or our parents or the school system or whatever it was, and whatever it is that's currently perpetuating this kind of mode of ignorancy that's being pressed upon humanity. We can just keep pointing fingers and bitching and complaining about it, or we can say, you know what? I don't know exactly how it is that we got here, but I know this is where we're at, and I'm okay with that. At least I know where I'm at, and I know that I can do something about it moving forward. But let's talk about this so you have a better understanding of why it is you should forgive yourself and why it is you should be grateful for where you're at today. Well, we're going to have to do a little bit of a history lesson. Today we're in what they're calling the information age. I think we're transitioning into what I believe is an understanding age, okay, because of what these self-help gurus are doing, and if we all can get on board with the understanding of the mind, we will soon move from the information age and get into the understanding age, which is far more impactful and far more useful for us. Information's fine, but a lot of it is not, doesn't do us any good because we're not going to use it. All we really want is the stuff that's really important to us that we're going to use, and we want to understand that. And so it's kind of a filtering down and getting rid and flushing out all the stuff that we don't need in terms of information, and just get it down to the stuff that we really need that's important. That's the new epoch I think we're heading into. Now, before we got into the information age, we were in the industrial age. Okay, and before the industrial age, we were in an agricultural age. And our educational system, unfortunately, is still stuck in this time between moving from the agricultural stage into the industrial stage. And in the industrial stage, they determined that people need these three skills, the three R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic, because they're going to get jobs, industry types of jobs, and they're going to have these skills, and they're going to have to be pretty good at it. So we're going to train them in these areas, and we're going to give them some more information. And those that can really retain some of this stuff and show some promise and maybe want to study, maybe they'll become the doctors and the lawyers. And everybody else, it doesn't seem to be, that's not what I really want to do. I'm pretty good at just doing what I was doing on the farm, which was just pushing a plow around. But now you can do something a little different but similar in a factory. Okay, cool. All you need: reading, writing, and arithmetic. Okay, the three R's. And that's really where we're at today. Unfortunately, the pace that we're going, this doesn't work for us anymore. We all have hands, eyes, and memory ability. So we are taught basic skills to become undervalued workers with a few that will hold the puppet strings of the many. Okay? Now, I don't want to sound like an alarmist, but in essence, that's what's happening. You can read pretty much any study out there in terms of where the money is, and everybody will say that, and show statistically speaking that the top 10% hold 90% of all the wealth, maybe even 99% of all the wealth. And that means everybody else is splitting up that little tiny bit. Okay, so if you got the money, you basically have the power, and if you have the power, you're in control. You're holding the puppet strings. So a few of us will be those puppet masters, if you will, while the rest of us are just undervalued employees, because the puppet masters need to turn a profit to stay on top. That profit is being given by undervaluing your potential and paying you less than what you're worth. That's how they stay in business. Okay, so that's basically what we're talking about here. We operate with a pre-industrial age education system that ill prepares us for the fast-paced quick changing world we live in that will require more than the 3 R's to survive. Like I said, we're not in the that tweener age between industrial and agricultural age anymore. We are moving way beyond the information age and potentially into an understanding age, which means we need to filter out a lot of this information. And a lot of the information needs to be interpreted by this. Okay, and so we need to really get better control of this, a better understanding of this, and how we operate as human beings, and so we can become more efficient and more effective and get a lot more done in the limited amount of time that we have. We all have minds, and we are taught very little about how it works, even though we use it all of the time. It's like learning about shoes and socks, reading and writing, without learning to walk or run, which is the mind. Really, I think that's the most fair assessment in terms of a comparison. We have learned all about our shoes and our socks, and we have not learned anything about how to walk or run, which seems kind of silly. And in essence, that's what's going on in terms of where we're at today. We have reading and writing skills and some mathematical skills, but we don't know anything about, the thing that's operating all that. That is really kind of nutty in my department. But we're going to change all that now. Okay, so here is what you should have been taught. In addition to all those basics, the reading, writing, and arithmetic, you should have been taught that you were on a human voyage, that we're all on a human voyage. And that we have this thing up here that may be here because there's an argument that goes all the way back to Aristotle and Plato and Socrates. They were having this big argument about where's the mind? It's in the brain, no, it's in the heart, somewhere. We still don't actually know where the mind is today, but at least we were having a debate. We've been having a debate for 2,000 or more years about where the mind is. But the reality is that we all have a mind. And we know a lot more about it today than they did back, when the Greeks were coming up with all these wise things to say. You're on a human voyage with many phases, and generally 6 main phases is what most of us will experience. And we will all go through a developmental process. That's key. That's another huge key. Besides knowing that you're going to have 6 phases in your life, generally speaking, that you're going to go through. But you're also going to have a developmental process. So really, when you're a child, this is when most of these developmental processes are very dramatic. There's these crazy stages that we go through. And I say crazy in the sense that when we move from one stage to the next, there's a dramatic difference between those 2 stages. Versus later in life, yes, a 30-year-old and a 70-year-old will look dramatically different, but so will a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. But there's a big difference. One is a 30-year difference, and the other's a 2-year difference. So in terms of just the amount of change that occurs, and the size of the change and the expanse of the change and the ability difference is so dramatically different between stage 1 and stage 2, and then from stage 2 to stage 3, and to stage 3 to stage 4, all these different levels of development, what I like to call the cognition tower. We are developing our minds and building this tower that we call our minds. And it's a very tall tower. It goes up 6, 7, 8, 9 levels or more. And we can operate in any of these levels if we know it's there. The problem is that we're not taught it's even there. Now, speaking about the developmental process and this idea about the cognition tower, it came to me because I've been studying the mind for a long time, and I came across a lot of theorists in the realm of development. Okay, so there's a guy by the name of Jean Piaget, cognition development theory. Okay, you start off motor sensory operation, pre-operational, concrete operational, formal operational. So there's these different stages that he tells us that children go through, and this is through observational testing and research and watching kids and giving them tests, and it was able to determine that were actually these things that were occurring inside the mind was causing these children to be and behave and act and think different than, say, adults or even themselves as they were developing. Okay? Now, another guy was Erik Erikson. And I like to think of him as sort of the emotional development theorist. But his theory was based upon social or psychosocial development. Again, I like to call it more of he's the emotional development guy, and Piaget's more the thinking guy when it comes to development. But he has the same, almost identical in terms of age when these changes will occur, right? He throws in, that between the pre-operational age, he's got 2 stages there, but once you get through those 2 stages, everything kind of lines up again in terms of what stage you're in. We look at Jane Loevinger, she's all about the ego development. And again, ironically and just strangely even, I'm looking at the timelines on when these developmental things are occurring about the ego, and they're lining up with these other ages. So there must be something going on, that there's these ages that we hit and suddenly we get these new abilities. Robert Keegan, social maturity development, same sort of thing. You hit these certain age, you set these milestones, and suddenly you're moving from one ability to another ability. Morris Massey, modeling development theory. Pam Levine, cycles of development theory. Robert Cavinghurst, task development theory. On and on. As I studied and researched, I saw that every one of these people had a theory, and it was kind of going on this timeline, and things were matching up quite the same. And I said, wow, we could spend a lifetime studying from these people and trying to teach all of that to people, and we wouldn't get it very well, especially parents. How do we teach a growing child, having to go through years and years of study and teach these principles, and then figure out a way to communicate it to children in a way that they can benefit and understand it? And that's when the tower came on to my head, the cognition tower. I can take and borrow from all of these people and translate it into a language that the average person can understand and parents can understand, and show a parent what the cognition tower looks like. And later I realized, you know what? We all need this, not just parents and children in that relationship, but when it comes to our own limiting beliefs, how we think, those conversations that we have in our head, that mind noise that's going on up there, it all goes back to when we were a child and we established rules for ourselves. And if we can get back to that point and understand how it is and what it was that was going on in our brains and our abilities at that time, why it was that we handed basically the keys to the car of our life to a 6-year-old, we may go, whoa, holy cow, that's when I started thinking this way. I shouldn't be thinking that way anymore because I'm no longer a 6-year-old kid. And that's what I do with my life coaching. I teach people the cognition tower and how you can use the other part of the method, which is the mental emotional elevator, to get up and down and get into these regions of your mind and reprogram yourself so you can become the best version of yourself. Now, the information that these people came up with has really been around for well over a generation. The self-development founder is said to be James Allen, who published his first works back in 1913. He published his works on the effects of thought on health and the body over 100 years ago. Okay? The book was called As a Man Thinketh. In that book, he talks about disease and health, just like circumstances, are rooted in thought. Up here. It starts up here. In 1957, Earl Nightingale released The Strangest Secret. It sold over 1 million copies and continued on with that genre that James Allen really had started. One of my favorite sayings, and if you followed me on any of my other courses, you've probably heard me say this before, and I'm going to say it until they put me in the ground because it's a fantastic little saying. A man without a goal is like a ship without a rudder. This were the words of Earl Nightingale. Powerful message. Just very powerful. If you don't have a goal, if you're not, have a destination to go to, what are you dealing with? How are you going to react and behave? What's going to happen is you're just going to deal with whatever pops up in the moment. You get stuck in circumstance, and you can get kind of caught up in a tidal wave of that happening. Even a whirlpool, right? You put out this fire, and suddenly, like, okay, I don't have a goal, so you're looking for the next fire to put out, and you're almost inviting trouble, because this is where your mind's at. You're thinking about trouble. There's trouble. You become what you think. Earl had that and many other powerful logical messages about the power of the mind. Yet this powerful understanding, now we're talking like, okay, 1913, we're in the 50s now, we've got a whole generation or so, and yet this powerful wisdom isn't in schools yet. Why not? In the 1980s, Tony Robbins, following in the footsteps of Jim Rohn, would come along and make this understanding more mainstream as a motivational speaker, using NLP and other evolutions of self-development. Still, it's not part of our educational curriculum. What's going on? Tony Robbins, came along, and most people have heard his name. Awaken the Giant Within was a big book. Put him on the, kind of the mainstream map, if you will. And of course, he's a multi-millionaire, and you hear his name and ears perk up. And what did Tony say? And he learned how to walk on fire, rocks, or whatever, firewalker, and did all these amazing things. And every time he shows up, he sells out auditoriums and stadiums, and incredible story. And information that he is providing to people is all about this, the mind. And I'm often wondering, why is it that this information, people got to pay thousands upon thousands of dollars to get, right? And they're just being told it. It doesn't mean that that's going to sink in, and they're actually going to apply it, and they're going to use it and do anything. They're just going to a concert, and you're getting all rived up, and Tony's really good about putting on a show and getting people involved and everything. So some of it gets really at that experiential level of learning, which is good, because that really cements understanding better. But others are just going to, read the book, maybe watch the concert on TV or something like that, and then it's not going to have the same impact. And then it's just change a channel, go on to the next item on the Netflix queue. Wow, that's hard to say. Boom, in one ear and out the other. And so it doesn't change our lives, and so we don't get any benefit from it. But imagine if we put this in our school systems and made it part of our curriculum. Imagine if we could do that. Imagine if we could put this into our school curriculum, so people would understand how the mind operates. Those that put into practice these basic understandings about the mind live far more enjoyable and successful lives. Why wouldn't we teach something that cannot hurt you, can't break your brain, to the contrary, make you stronger and more powerful? Why wouldn't we teach this in school? Why aren't we teaching this to our children? Why isn't this part of what we do at work even? Why isn't this just like food, like breathing? Understanding the mind, we use it all the time. Why don't we know it better? So what we're going to do is we're going to tell the human voyage story so that you and your loved ones can get the secrets that should have never been a secret. Okay, up on your screen you're going to see the 6 points that make up the Star Family Coaching logo over here. And what they represent are the 6 phases of the human voyage. And when we're born, we are going to experience right off the bat stage 1 and stage 2. The self and relationship journeys begin with the baby, right? Self will experience the inside journey of self. So imagine inside your brain, you're going to pull in the self-mastery phase, right? It's all about you, your ego, and how you perceive things, your perspective, your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions, the way you think about things, what you believe, your opinions, you. This is self, okay? And there's an inside conversation that only you know about. The way you think about yourself, all that stuff, that's self in the box. Now there's a self that's outside the box. That's how you represent yourself. That this is your character that you express to other people. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. I'm not going to go through the entire developmental process because that's available in one of my teaching courses for very, very little. In fact, if you are interested, look below at the links or whatever is down there, because I'm certain there's something down there. This may change over time, but you'll be able to take advantage and get some of this information for pennies on the dollar because you're watching this webinar today, as well as access to PDFs that will help you figure out where you are right now today. You get those for free, and all you have to do is send me your name. Okay, just go to starfamilycoaching@gmail.com, and in the subject line say, send me those self-assessments, please. Okay, you don't even have to say please, just say, send me those self-assessments, Coach Hall, and I'll send them right over. And if you have any questions, if you have any questions, you can fill that in the body of the email as well, and I'll do my best to respond. Okay, so let's look at, we're just going to start with the first stage, the infancy to toddler stage, okay? We're going to be on this journey inside of our mind, and it's going to be a self-experience. We're going to be doing a lot of self-experiencing here, but we're also going to have an early relationship experience, okay? So what's happening is that our mind, when we're this young, we have underdeveloped senses, we have lack of motor control, we have a massive amount of energy being spent on physical growth, and we're just unaware of even the fact that there's things to be aware of. I mean, there's no awareness of even being aware of unawareness, okay? I mean, that's how unaware we are. So think about this, our energy, okay, because we're energy beings, most of us just going to physical growth because we're going to grow at a rate like we will never grow again. Those first 18 months, we're going to double, triple in size, and the weight's going to be just massively different. There's a lot of stuff going on at a very early stage. By the time we're 3 years old, we're going to already be half of our entire height. So we're going to, like, within 3 years, we're going to be doing as much growing as we will do for the next 15 years. So there's a tremendous amount of growth going on early on in our lives. Now, we can't do anything when we're born. We are completely helpless, right? We don't have access to, oh, I'm hungry, Dad, could you bring me a burger? We don't even have that ability, right? We don't know what we're hungry for. We don't even know what's happening. We don't even know we're hungry. We just start feeling bad and start making noises. Ah, our belly's growling, signals are sending, going up and saying, we need food, we need food, we need energy, do something here, make a noise. And that's what we do. We make a noise, and Mommy, Daddy comes over, shoves a bottle in our mouths, and, oh, yeah, that's what we need. And we get our nourishment that way, right? Maybe we're cold, and then they come and walk, put their arms on us and do the rubby-dubby thing and sing to us so we feel a little bit better. And so we get our love, and we get our safety, and we get our security, and we get all the things that we need. Now, that's happening outside. That's not happening inside our mind. That's actually happening outside of us, and we're experiencing it, right? And so we're reliant on folks in the environment. I call them the environmental agents, right? Because we don't know the difference of anything. We're unaware of being unaware. We don't know the difference between them and us, and we can't conceptualize any of that stuff yet because our brains are still highly underdeveloped. We do know we have our bodies will remind us from time to time that we need stuff, and it's going to be up to the environment to provide us with everything that we need to live. Now, as we develop, we're going to be developing feelings, our emotions will be more developed, the way we think will be more developed, our thoughts will be more developed, the stages of the cognition tower will be starting to get more refined and more developed. And after we're conditioned to see things happen in a pattern, like I cry and food is brought to me and I feel okay again, we start to go, okay, I've got this relationship going here between what's going on with me, and when I'm feeling bad, then suddenly somebody out here does something and I don't feel bad anymore. I like that. That's a good thing. All right. So we're forming a relationship between the folks that give us what we need, our love, our food, safety, warmth. And this becomes merging into our mind. And this is our first understanding of relationship, this other phase of our existence, of this experience we call life. Now, again, you're talking about a baby here. Baby just can't say, yo, man, I'm hungry. Give me some food. Need some food here, man. I'm feeling kind of sweaty. Turn down that AC, would you? Or turn it up, rather. I need to cool down here, man. Whoo, it's hot. Turn on the AC, man. Turn on the AC. It is hot. Or, yo, man, can you bring me a cold brewski? I'm feeling kind of, my mouth is dry. Bring me a cold one, would you? We can't do that. Babies can't do that, right? They don't have any language capability. It'll be a number of years before they're able to speak. So they got to communicate to us some sort of way. And so the only language they know is the language of emotion. It's the same language that we all are born with. It is our first human race language. It is the universal language that we all understand, emotions. Okay, now here's the trick though. As a baby emotes, the agents of the environment are supposed to take care of this young creature, right? They got to interpret those emotions. They got to figure out what it is that little one's saying, right? So the parental figures will recognize basic emotions. So shivering probably equates to, oh, baby's cold. Let's put a blanket on the baby, give the baby a hug, whatever, okay? They may see the baby smiling and go, ah, baby's happy. They may see the baby crying and determine, oh, must be uncomfortable. There's something going on. It's causing the baby to cry. Let's look into it, investigate the matter, and fix it if we can. However, adults have also learned, because we've got a lot more time, that all of these signals don't necessarily, A plus B doesn't always equal C. Sometimes it equals D, sometimes it equals E, F, and G. Could be any number of things. And what I mean by that is that sometimes when we're shivering, it's not because we're cold, it's because we're scared, right? Sometimes we're smiling because we're just kind of dopey, right? We're just kind of like in a silly, we're not all together, right? It could be on some medication or something, adults do, recreational medicine sometimes. It makes them happy. It puts a smile on their face. Doesn't mean that they're really happy. It means that they are temporarily happy, right? Chemically happy, but it doesn't mean that they're really happy. And oftentimes as adults, this is what we get caught up in, because we're not happy at our core. We do things to produce chemicals that trick us into think we're happy. There's a lot of chemistry that can create the sensation of happiness. But if you're not really happy, you're going to probably rely on, because you want to be happy, doing any number of things. Getting your GABA on, for example. This is meditation. This is a sense of peace. Or maybe endocannabinoids, which is a runner's high. You're going out there and you're exercising, and then suddenly you just got this euphoric feeling because you're exercising so much. Like, whoa. And of course, endocannabinoids are also in marijuana. So that's another reason why people, smoke the green stuff, to get that endocannabinoid feeling. There's also oxytocin, which is the bonding chemical when we're with somebody and we're kissing them, we're loving them, we feel connected. That connection chemical works. There are many other ones. The big one is dopamine, where you do something and it just gives you a thrill. Somebody recognizes you or throws you a party, that thing that happens and suddenly you react, you feel good, a shot of feel good, that's dopamine. So some of us will get caught up into these worlds of how to make myself happy, and some of the things that we're doing to generate that chemistry so we feel happy are not really good things. Okay, for example, if you could become addicted to alcohol, drugs, pornography, gambling, because you're really looking for those chemicals that are going to occur to make you feel good, rather than trying to find that place that will bring you from that foundation of unhappy to a foundation of happy. Okay, and then you don't need all that other stuff to get you to happy sometimes, because you're happy, and you can actually just kind of go up from there. And sometimes you're going to sink down low because people die and circumstances occur that are going to make you feel unhappy. But if at your core basically you're happy, and there's things that you can do to get there, and we can talk about that at another time. And if you're interested in information like that, please look below, because there are links available to you, courses that you can take at Star Family Coaching and in a number of different sources. And I'll show you how to get there. All you got to do is look at the link below, and I'll show you how to do all that if you're interested in that. We're still going to look at the baby at this point. We all were babies, and the information that happened to us as babies is still with us, and so we can get back down to this level and understand. Where I'm going to go right now is one of these secrets that are very important to uncover. Okay, so the baby is going to need energy to grow, to learn, and to move. Okay, that's pretty much what's going on for the baby. He's growing, massively growing, changing in size. It's also learning how to, incorporate what's going on around him, learning about the rattle, learning about where the nipple is, we're learning about all sorts of things. And they're also learning to move. They're actually spending a lot of time, a lot of energy trying to figure out just how to move their arms and their fingers and their hands and their legs and just their body in general. Even in the beginning, just how do you keep this thing up straight, right? How to hold their head up. So baby also needs love and a providing environment. So all those needs are met, right? We need food, we need water, we need to feel safe. All these things have to be provided for a child, and so baby needs that. Now, because we're going to start gaining some experience on this, right? We're going to make a determination, and this is where Eric Erickson comes in, and he says, what's on trial here, really for the child, is trust versus mistrust. And when we look at mistrust, we can interpret that in a lot of different ways. It could be we just don't trust, or we just don't trust as much, or we're skeptical about the trust, or we misunderstand the trust. So it's trust. That's pretty much an easy thing. Anything outside of trust would be in the mistrust category. So we either trust our environment or we don't trust our environment. And that's pretty much what's going to that's what's happening. That's sort of school, the first day, the first month, the first year, upwards to 18 months of school that kids go to when they're first born. So you're enrolling in the school of life, and your first lesson is, do you trust your environment or don't you entrust your environment? And you're going to find out, because mom and dad are going to do what they need to do for you, or they're not. And that's going to determine whether you trust or not trust the environment. When energy is spent more on growing, learning, and moving than on love, health, and safety needs, then the experience is more positive. Now, the exception being that we need love, okay? We need a good balance of love. But what I'm saying here is that if we're not getting love and we're not getting our health and safety needs met, our energy is going to be focused on getting those things because we need them. And if we're not getting them, then that's where our energy needs are going to go. And a lot of our time is going to be spent on that. And we're not going to be spending time and energy on growing, learning, and moving, which are so important for us. Okay, so when survival needs are always being tested, okay, that's what those love, health, and safety needs are. They're survival needs. When they're always being tested, there's a lot of stress going on, and that's negative. That stress takes up even more energy. Okay, so that's a negative beginning, which means basically when they get through that stage, there's going to be a foundation that's being developed of, I don't trust. Okay, so the first level of self-development is urgently reliant on its environment and its abilities to provide for its needs. The first 9 to 18 months establishes a trust standard that will act as a foundation to the ensuing stages of development. So here's your first assessment question. Okay? Do you instinctively trust? Okay? Now we're going to open this up a little bit more. And first of all, before we get into some more of this assessment, the trust assessments, I want to give you for what purpose or why this is important. Because knowing if you instinctively trust or not is a key factor in your starting position in life. If you don't know whether you trust or you don't trust, and you just kind of go reactive, and you have no understanding of what it is that's causing you to trust or what is causing you not to trust, if you're just oblivious to this, then you're not going to be able to navigate towards your goal very well. Because your trust is the foundation on so many things, on relationships in particular. You got to be able to trust yourself, all right, so you can get stuff done. If you can't trust yourself, then what's the chances of you getting anything done? You got to be able to trust yourself. And if you forge a relationship with somebody, you want to be able to trust them too, so you can get things done, right? So you can build something on that relationship. Without that, and without an understanding of why it is you trust or why it is that you don't trust, you're just going to be dealing with circumstances. Even if you have a vision, even if you have a goal, you're not going to be able to get there. That bridge won't get built. You'll just be kind of going in circles trying to figure out who to trust and who not to trust, and not knowing why it is that you can't figure it out. Okay, so the next time, this is what we want to do now. We're going to look at more of this assessment. So in the near future, maybe right after this webinar, if you go outside and you meet somebody for the first time, I want you to pay attention to your feelings and your thoughts, okay? What's your gut telling you? What's going on inside in yourself when you meet this person? And with this question in mind, do I trust them? Do I trust this person? Is this a trustworthy person? And determine what that answer is right away. Figure that out. What's your instinct? Do you trust this person? How long does it take to trust them? How much do you trust them? Do they have to earn your trust before you trust? Okay? So maybe you know this about yourself already, but you haven't really just brought it to the surface. Now you have it to the surface. If you don't know this about yourself, this is a great exercise. And I want you to run out and do the same thing when you get home, wherever you're at and you relax. I want you to run out and meet people and do this a number of times. And then I want you to sit down when you're calm and just think about the last few times you've met people. Okay? What's happened? Because just having this information right now, it may change the way you go about dealing with people in the future, right? I've kind of given you a little bit of an understanding here. Now, if you have that understanding, you may operate a little differently. So what we need to do is see if we are operating differently. If now, because of giving you a little bit of information, you're not quite the same person you were, that's a good thing. But at the same time, you've got a lot of relationships already established. What have you done in those relationships? So you need to then recall all the meetings of new people that you've had recently. And you need to jot down on a list of, on a paper, a list of all the people that you know. And go through these same questions. Do you trust this person? Okay. If you do, why do you trust them and how long did it take for you to trust them? How much do you trust them? Right? And you could come up with any number of scenarios. Would you trust them to take care of your kids? Would you trust them with your last dime? Would you trust them with your most important secret of your life that they won't go and just tell on everybody? I mean, figure out what it is that trust means to you to that extent. Yeah, do I trust my friend to hold a T-shirt for a night? Yeah, I don't think there's any danger of somebody like wanting to keep my T-shirt right? Because t-shirts a dime a dozen. But if, I've got a heart transplant and I need to leave it with somebody, I have to leave my heart, right? And I'm going to die, and I want to make sure that my heart gets to my wife because she needs it. Who can I trust with that? How many people on that list would make that level of trust? Because that's pretty high up on the trust level, right? So I want you to just run through a number of scenarios. Be creative. Don't just go with what I'm saying. Just run through all kinds of ideas. Trusting ideas, come up with different scenarios, and then would I trust Charlie with this? Would I trust Diana with that? Would I trust Erica with this? Boom, 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 and start to get an understanding, not so much as a judgment on your trusting of relationships, but just what you've been doing so far and where you are at this moment. Do you trust instinctively or do you not trust instinctively? Okay? Do this assessment. It's very important. You'll learn a lot about yourself, and it really is the foundation for every single thing that we're going to be talking about moving forward. Okay, moving forward, we're going to talk a little bit about energy. I'm going to give you show you a few diagrams about the development process of children and what's going on and how this all comes about and what shapes the mind. And really, right at the top of the chart is energy. Okay, energy can shift your mind from being sharp to just really not effective whatsoever, right? So energy is probably the most first and foremost key. I mean, as a child, you are running on energy. As a human being, at every age, you're going to be running on energy. And when our energies are fluctuating all over the place, our moods, our behaviors, the way we think, they also kind of go up and down. If we're able to stabilize our energy, okay, and we understand, when we need more energy, and we're aware of it well in advance of, now we're in critical mode. Let's get, okay, it's about time for us to start thinking about replenishing some energy here, and we, proactive about it, and then, make sure we don't do anything that spikes our energy, and we're smart about that too, and we can get to this very calm. It's like being on the sea, in the ocean, and dealing with a calm sea versus a very choppy sea, right? Which boat trip do you want to be on, right? Where you seasick and got to take the Dramamine to get through the experience, or, I can lay back and, I can, just lay back and enjoy the ride. Well, that's where we'd all like to be, right? So on your screen now, you'll see this very simplistic form of what impacts our behavior. You've got things that you think about, you've got how you feel, you've got food and water that is going to impact you. These are the inputs you need to really impact your energy. And your energy is going to be on or off. Okay, when you're on, you're thinking and you can see things, you can do things, and the output of this thinking and feeling process that requires energy is that you can calculate things, figure things out. You can actually physically work. That's what the hammer demonstrates. You can get from point A to point B. You can move. You can exercise. You can enjoy life. You can discover. You can do all these things. This is the output that energy allows you to have. Now, of course, you also need to get rest, and so that would be the off switch. So your energy's off. It's not really off. It's just turned down to a very reduced level so that you can get a rested mind, because your brain, body, your heart, mind, soul, spirit, all of it is on, and sometimes it needs to be not completely off, but at a restful state for regeneration. Okay, we need to re-energize and just sort of get the stuff that's unimportant kind of washed out. Okay, we do a brainwash every night. Okay, not the kind of brainwash where I'm telling you what to do and you just do it. No, the kind of brainwash I'm talking about is where you literally wash the brain. The brain gets rid of all the stuff that's unimportant, and now you have a fresher brain so you can receive new information the following day. So this is just a diagram to explain the energy aspect. Now I want to quickly just run through sort of a developmental process of what happens with all of us, and we will begin being dropped off by the stork. That's how babies are born. All right, so our baby. All right, look up on the screen here. You see that there's a baby. The baby has almost no experience. And if you see above his head, there's a scale there. It's basically saying that his senses are very weak. Yeah, you can see, you can smell, you can hear, but the signals are very distorted. They're not coming in very well, and they're constantly changing and getting better and better and more refined. So the signals aren't matching up every day. So this is why we don't have a lot of memories, because there's nothing that's the same all the time, and it takes sort of a repetition, sameness, and something for us to connect to in order for us to forge memories. Since there's so much changing occurring at such a rapid pace when you're that young, you don't really have a lot to work with when it comes to memory. Now, at some point, when we're able to, start to figure, hey, the environment is different from me, we have now the development of ego. Development of ego will go on really for the rest of our lives. As a young lad, we will have some experience, very little experience relative to adulthood, but a lot more than we had when we were a baby. We'll also have some information. We'll probably have gone to school age. That's what the book represents. Our senses are going to be stronger. In fact, they hit the refinement cap at about age 6, 7, and 8. So we're like 100% optimal at that point. And moving forward, it's just going to be good until you get to be like my age and you need reading glasses. But up until that point, everything is working pretty good. Then you also have something, you see on the top of his head, he's got this little crown. That's belief. You got enough experience, and now there's stuff going on, and we can't figure out what things are. What we do when we can't figure out what things are is that we fill up that void with opinions and ideas and beliefs. Okay, and so we got a lot of that, and that will guide our actions quite often. And in front, you see, he looks like he's chasing a tiny little brain. That's understanding. Okay. Now let's move forward. We pick up on the kid on the side, on the screen, the far left side of the screen there. Then he moves up and becomes kind of a teenager, and his relationship understanding begins to shift from family to tribal kind of thinking. Who's my family outside of my family? Okay, we become tribal oriented for the first time. We see things differently. We have broader and better perspective. We can see things abstractly for the first time, right? We'll have a lot more information because we'll have been in school. We'll have a lot more time on this planet. We'll have more experience, a lot more experience. Our foundation of belief will likely be stronger, and our understanding will be much greater. And we move all the way to the left side of this, or right side of the screen rather, and you see that's a full-grown adult. The tank of experience, the childhood tank, is full, and now we're working on really what amounts to is the adult tank, and there's some experience there as well. The symbols indicate there's a lot more information that this person has observed and absorbed, and as well as understanding, much greater understanding, and even belief gets even bigger and stronger because we're branching out our thoughts and how we operate. So the human voyage will look a little bit like this. The red line kind of indicates our self journey. The green line indicates our relationship journey. And some of us will pick up on what I like to call the parenthood journey, and we will become parents. And as the family grows, we'll move into a new phase, which will be called the family dynamics phase. Now, if we look at adults transferring information to children so that we can all have an understanding of our minds, we're really talking about parenting and how effective of a parent you would be, is going to be completely and directly correlated with these three things. Okay, and truly all 6 phases can have a huge impact. But if everything goes according to plan and we don't have any mix-ups, and every single one of us, if we don't have siblings and we don't have cats and dogs, and maybe we don't have grandparents or anybody else really impacting our lives, it's just really this triangle of mom, dad, and child. Everybody's going to have that. Okay, and again, mom and dad might be one person. Okay, it doesn't mean that sometimes there's single parents out there and they got to be mom and dad. These are the three things: your self-level mastery and your level of relationship mastery, which includes not just your own self-development mastery, but it includes your partners. If you do have somebody helping you out in parenting, your co-parent, that individual's level of self-mastery, and the way in which you two communicate and cooperate and get along, that relationship component, this is going to be on display for your child. You'll be modeling your self-behavior and this relationship behavior. You're also going to need some understanding of childhood development if you're going to be effective. None of us get this training. There is no parenting universities, no parenting courses that people have to take. You can take them. You typically can pay through the keister, if you will. It costs you quite a bit of money to take some of these courses, and some of them don't provide as good a training or experience as they should. Others do, but the point is that it should be something that's given to everybody, because we're all eventually, we all will have been a child, and maybe we need that whole experience explained to us so we can be better as adults. But many of us will become parents, and we should get some good training when it comes to understanding how children operate. Now, information's fine, and knowledge is great too, and so is experience, but really the key to making things happen in life is understanding. All right, so for you left-brainers out there that like to see things in numbers and packages and letters and things like that, I got this diagram I'm going to show you here. It basically formulates understanding. So understanding is the product of experience and knowledge. Now, mixed into understanding can be belief. Okay? Understanding is belief mixed in with experience and knowledge that are put together and then put into practice. Okay? Application of information and having an experience through that application. That is understanding. Okay, if we break further down the variables of experience and knowledge, it'll look like this. Experience is really a product of work, effort, application, time, and opportunity. Okay? Along with belief. Because we're looking for answers, and oftentimes there are no answers, and so we have to fill it in with something, and it usually gets filled in with our parenting, with the culture, with opinions and feelings, and wherever our mind is at, our sense of ourselves, and our beliefs, okay, and other mysteries, luck or whatever, okay. This will all impact belief. We add belief with all these other things we talked about: time, opportunity, work, effort, application. That becomes experience. Okay? Knowledge is just as important. We are bombarded with information all the time. We have 5 senses that are bringing in information all the time. Whatever attracts our interest is stuff that we'll hang on to. The rest of it just kind of goes by. It's said that we get advertised like 8,000 times per day. There's a lot of stuff that it's just noise going by that we're not going to pick up on. But if we're interested in it, there's a chance it might get remembered. Okay? And if it gets remembered and we start to work with it, then it becomes knowledge. So the experience plus the knowledge equals understanding. Okay, so understanding is where we want to get to. And some of us are going to want to be masters. And so the secret behind mastery is that you got to practice and practice and practice. And it takes about 10,000 hours of practice to master understanding. So we referred to mastery a few times. Obviously, if you're going to be a great parent, you want to become the master of yourself. So 10,000 hours, roughly speaking, 10,000 hours, if you spend 3 hours a day working on something, it'll take you about 10 years. That's a long time, right? But if you work on yourself every single day, you can get that, 24 hours a day. You got to give yourself some time for sleep, but excluding sleep, you can get it You can completely transform and become a different person, the person you want to be, in less than 3 years. Okay, so it's like going to university, but university of you, university of yourself. Learn about yourself, learn about your mind, and become a master of self. And if you have a child today, well, by the time they're 4 or 5 years old, you can be modeling an incredible version of a human being to them, in which that would be fantastic for your child and take a lot of burden off you in terms of dealing with all the issues that come up with parenting, because you won't have those issues. Those issues will be for some other family, because you'll be modeling behavior that your child will want to pick up on. Okay, so your relationship mastery is something else you want to work on. And you can do that simultaneously. You can work with your partner, work on the relationship together, work on areas such as conflict resolution. What do you do when you fight? Right? You're going to fight. Everybody we don't always agree with one another all the time. So how do you handle that? Okay, and demonstrating how to handle that to your child, wow, that's critical for their ability to have strong relationships in the future. And we need to teach our children how to develop strong relationships, because we can't do this thing called life on our own. We're going to need some help from other people. The other two areas that we're going to want to get some information on are your level of childhood understanding, because your child is literally going to turn into a different human being about 4 times through this whole childhood experience. You can't talk to your 15-year-old the way you talk to your 2-year-old. You know, gaga goo goo language doesn't work to a 15-year-old. So you have to learn the different languages that your child will speak and understand. And you need to understand development of a child to just begin to appreciate what's required for you to get to that level of understanding. You also want to look at family management, which is family dynamics. Beyond yourself and your co-parent, there are other people that are going to be impacting your child. They're going to be reframing their behaviors. They're going to be teaching them things that maybe you don't taught to your child. So you want to look at what it is going on around your child, including sibling relationships, grandparent relationships, aunt-uncle relationships, school, teachers, okay, friends. This makes up the family dynamics. Plus, this the juggling of this whole thing, right? You got to pick up little Johnny and take him to soccer practice. Oh, he needs a tutor tomorrow. How am I going to pencil that in? Got to buy the groceries. Got to do some laundry. Life has got to be balanced, and that's part of the family dynamics. Once your child starts to get old enough, sooner or later you're going to realize that you're not going to be around for them forever. Not that you're going to die off anytime soon. It's just that they're going to grow old enough to leave the household, right? They're going to go and leave the coop, so to speak. We call this the empty nesting phase. Now, the reality is that a lot of us aren't prepared for that. And when our children go off and become independent on their own, suddenly we wake up one day and go, oh my God, what am I doing? What can I do? And it becomes kind of traumatic for us. Also, if we don't get into this mindset early enough, we can end up becoming a helicopter parent, and where we feel like we got to solve this child's problem even when they're not a child anymore, when they were an adult. We will always look at our children as our child, but at some point we have to realize, when they're 21 years old, they got to be responsible for themselves, and they should have the skills to be able to answer and solve any problems on their own at that point. If the first time they have a problem, their instinct is, let me call mom and dad, they can solve my problems for me, we haven't done a good job. Okay? We need to be able to prepare our kids for the day that they will be leaving the nest. And it may happen sooner than we're ready for. And we need to start this mindset when they're babies. That's right. When they're little babies, we have to already put in our mind that someday this little baby's going to grow up. And so we need to let them experience a little bit of autonomy. We need to allow them to, cry a little bit, experience a little pain, because life is going to, not going to be a piece of cake, right? You're going to have some struggles. And if you don't know how to deal with the struggles and take care of these challenges, you're not going to have a very successful, happy life. We need to prepare them ASAP. So get into a phase 5 empty nesting life transition mode ASAP, okay? And that's something else that we need to master. And you need to master that in concert with your partner. This has got to be the dynamic duel, working together side by side in a unified front. Boom, or this is what we're doing. Get the other family members involved. This is our mission, guys. These are our values. This is what we're looking for. We're trying to get you launched, not just so you can survive, but so you can thrive in life. Now, number 6 is going to happen once the children have actually launched. They're on their own, and suddenly we look at our partner and go, "Who are you?" And then we look in the mirror and go, "Who are you?" And we don't know the answer to those questions. We don't know who we are because all we've been up to that point is a mom and dad, and that's been our whole life. And now we've got to figure out what our new identity is going to be. This is next phase, life transition. Now, sometimes this happens a lot sooner than we like. Divorce, that's a major transition. A spouse dies. That's terrible. It's horrible. It does happen. It's going to change things dramatically. Relocation. Okay, got a big job promotion. Can't live in London anymore. Got to move to the U.S. Whoa, completely different world. We're uprooting. No more friends together, no more familiar shopping centers and doctors and all this. Got to go to a whole new life transition. How do we deal with life transition? These are things that we need to model to our children as well, because life is going to be full of transitions. And as soon as we figure it out and we master it, we're able to model it and teach it. That's going to benefit the whole family. And you're going to be happier and more fulfilled for doing that. And we talked about a little earlier about information, and we talked about experience. But one of the big things, and this is a big secret here, folks, is that what drives us is not really the information that we have, and it's not really even our experience most of the time. What drives us, and you can see it in the world today, is what we believe. and how do we get to that point to what we believe? Often is a mystery. It's just like, how in the world does somebody believe that? Where did they come up with that opinion? How did they hatch that idea? Well, the truth is you can be with a lifelong partner and they can have a completely different perspective on the world than you do. And you may think, hey, we're completely in concert here. It could be, for example, if you see the image on your screen, the woman here has got a belief system that is basically focused on the country that she lives in. She's a patriot, right? She's a patriot, and she loves her country. She loves liberty and home life. These are her values. While her husband, on the other hand, he sees things kind of more globally. He's not focused on the nation. He's focused on the world, and he's focused on law and order and money. Okay, and these two are raising a child, and they see things a lot different. And if you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll see that there's all these little measurement charts which represent these 6 phases. We're all going to be at different levels of mastery on all 6 phases in our life. Okay, and just to review again, you can see up on the screen, these are the 6 phases that we all will go through. These are the secrets that you need to focus on. These areas need to be unpacked. We're not going to unpack them here in this webinar, but you do now have available to you an understanding of what it is that you do need to search out and find. And if you need to do that, you don't have to go very far. You can just go to the bottom of this page and hit the link, and you'll have access to a lot of information on how you can become the best version of yourself, where you can become a self-master, a relationship master, parenting master, family dynamics master, an empty nest master, and a life transition master. So that's going to wrap up this webinar, and just real quickly, I'm going to do a real quick wrap up and look at the screen right now. You can see, for more information about any of this stuff that we've talked about today, just go to the bottom of the screen, and you can contact me at starfamilycoaching@gmail.com, and in the subject line just write, "Send me my self-assessments." And in the body, feel free to ask me any questions that you may have about the multitude of offers that we have available here, as well as my affiliate partners, and we'll get that over to you as well. You deserve the knowledge, the secrets that you were not given when you were a child, when you were not given by your government, you were not given by your elementary school teacher, your middle school teachers, your high school teachers, or even your college professors. They didn't give you this information. They should have given you this information, but you need to know how this works. When you understand how your mind works, everything else that you were taught by all those folks becomes more clear, becomes more powerful. You become more powerful. Nothing becomes an obstacle anymore for you that you can't get over. Okay? Yes, you'll have obstacles. Yes, you'll have challenges. But you have the ability to tackle each and every one of them. And the reason why you're not is because up here, you don't know about the power of this. You haven't been taught the power of this. And if you're interested in developing that power, just click the link below and we'll make that happen for you. Okay? Get back into the game of life by truly knowing yourself and your starting point in the new direction of self-empowerment today. Figure out where you're at so we can help you build a bridge so you can achieve those goals that you hold so dear. And again, if you are interested in this, please contact me below, starfamilycoaching@gmail.com, and put in the subject line, please send me my self-assessments, or just put self-assessments, or assessments. That's it. I make it as easy as I possibly can. Just put assessments at my address. I'll have your email address, and I will send you PDFs on 8 different assessments. 8 different assessments that will give you the information that you need to know about yourself so you know exactly where you are right here. Okay? And if you want to know more about here, the links below will help you figure out how to get the information you need and put you in a position to where you can move that information to knowledge and move that knowledge to experience and to understanding. There's a pathway for you, and we make it available for you here at Star Family Coaching. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the webinar. Please feel free to leave some comments on my Star Family Coaching Facebook page and any other place where you can see me on my website, starfamilycoaching.com. Send comments there. Comment anywhere. If you see this on the YouTube channel, comment there, comment below, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Until I see you again, farewell, my friends.